right, welcome back and many thanks for staying with us. I have the Secretary General for the National Unity Platform Party, David Louis Rubongoya. He's not alone. We also do have the Hoima East Division MP, Patrick Kayunga Mwesigwe, who is also joining us on set. Very good morning, Mr. Mwesigwe, and also Rubongoya. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good morning, sir.
All right.
Good morning, viewers.
Indeed. We do have Kayunga on the order paper that we want to discuss. We also do have the funding for the new cities. We also do have striking intern doctors. We also do have the issue of the rising fuel prices in that regard that we also want to interrogate right here on the show. And when it comes to Kayunga, what lessons do we learn from the fracas that has taken center stage in the Kayunga area as we actually take a look at the Kayunga district by-election for an LC5 chairperson in that regard. Let me first bring in MP for the Hoima East Division, that is Patrick Kayunga. Patrick Kayunga, let's talk about a pertinent issue like the funding for the new cities. What should the viewer know about this? What is the problem here?
Well, thank you very much.
New cities were created, but now we don't have money?
Yeah, thank you very much. And good morning, viewers. The problem of cities started right from the inception of the cities because the cities were started when we were not ready as government to operationalize them. And as a result of that, we somehow put the horse before the cart. And not the cart before the horse. And that was unfortunate. Now we are going backwards, trying to fill the gaps and ensure that the cities are operationalized. The cities did not begin with money. Most of them, you know, were municipalities. And they were elevated from municipalities to the state status, but they moved with the budgets. They moved with the budgets of the municipalities, and yet the mandate which they have now is an enhanced mandate, requiring them to perform quite a myriad of actions, and in terms of service delivery, in terms of administration, and so on and so forth. So all these have been challenges to the cities, and myself being a member of parliament representing a city, I'm finding it a big problem to explain to my constituents what the problem is. But going forward, as parliament, we have moved in, we have made a number of resolutions urging the ministries responsible to expedite action on ensuring that the cities get proper funding and they are able to undertake the operations expected of them.
Rubongoya, what do you make of all this? You did have accusations of gerrymandering that took center stage even before the 2021 election, the creation of these new cities. What do you make of all this? Because now they don't have money.
Yeah, thank you very much, and a very good morning to the viewers. Of course, it's clear, first of all, why they were created, at the time when they were created. It is just a function of politics. General Museveni wanting to use these in the hope that he would win votes in those areas. People are just demanding for cities, and so he says, there you go.
So it was a way to popularize the NRM in these areas?
Just that's what it is. And we've seen it happen many times. You remember the question of districts. Many districts have been created and without a budget. And then you see them struggle. You remember many times there have been districts without even headquarters.
Indeed.
That cannot even be, a district is created without sufficient money to have headquarters.
Indeed.
So that's what we see, and of course the question of gerrymandering. You know, he wants to create more electoral areas, have more MPs in these areas, and that kind of thing. So that's what, it's just about the politics. It's not about service delivery. And what I can say to the people who thought that they would get a lot from these cities is forget it.
Do you believe this might actually take center stage as we actually continue ahead of 2026? Is this the precedence we should expect? More creation of cities, districts that will actually favor President Museveni?
Of course, that's what he has always done. And this is what we see. We'll see that continue to happen, creating more administrative units. And for us as NUP, one of the things we've criticized so much is the cost of public administration.
Indeed.
You know, every time you create a city, every time you create a district, there has to be a new MP, a new LC5 chairperson for a district, etc., etc. This is money which should be going to pay doctors that we're talking about,
Indeed.
to deal with public services, basically.
MP for Hoima East Division is with us, Isingoma Patrick Mwesiga. What do you make of this? He says this was actually a muted plan of gerrymandering. President Museveni creating administrative units that will actually favor him in that regard, because how do you actually create cities or even districts and then later on you do not have money to fund the same? It seems like the main, target was to get votes from these areas.
Well, I do not know the truth of this, entirely, but I cannot speak for NRM because, as you know, maybe for your information, I'm an independent member of parliament who did not even go to primaries, so I'm independent 100%. But in case this was the intention of creating these cities and other municipalities, then I think it may not have achieved its intended objectives, because in the long run, going forward, there are many political shades ended up bringing MPs in these cities. As I said, I myself, I'm a member I'm an independent member of parliament.
But many of the independent MPs are NRM leaning.
Yeah, but I'm not leaning on any party. I'm purely independent.
All right.
My colleague, the woman MP for Hoima City, is a member of FDC. So as you can see, and our MP for Masini Municipality is an FDC member of parliament. So you can see the intention could have been there, but the results portray a fairly different.
Because how do you explain cities being created and at the end of the day there is no money to fund the same? It seems like clearly there was never planning. Would you agree?
Surely you cannot rule out that political motive. There was no planning. That is a fact, as my colleague Rubonga asserts. There was no planning. As I said from the beginning, we had the cart before the horse instead of the other way around. So I think this is a big lesson we have learned as leaders, as political leaders, that we need to sit down and plan. We don't need to politicize each and every action we take. We need to be comprehensive. We need to be proactive, so that we, at the end of the day, the plans we generate end up, giving us the desired results.
According to your perspective, Isingoma, what needs to be done to ensure the smooth running of operations in these new administrative units?
The beginning point is availing them money, resources, because the resources is the beginning of it, is the center of everything.
Indeed.
We have done that, and we are continuing to do that. I think Parliament now has provided funds, some minimum funds for the cities to be able to do some reasonable service delivery. And we are now beginning the planning, the budgeting process for the entire country. And we are going to focus on this issue to ensure that cities and other local governments, because this is not only to do about cities, it is to do about all local governments generally. We have got over 150 town councils which have been going without money created. So all these have been, imposing a big challenge on us as leaders. But it's a lesson, and we think we are not in a position to repeat this kind of mistake going forward.
Mr. Rumonga, you do have experts who are saying creation of administrative units, yes, is actually a waste of taxpayers' money. Do you also subscribe to this, chain of ideology?
But that's what I'm saying. If the question that every Ugandan needs to ask is, what is the objective of these cities? Apart from, knowing that I belong to a city, what is the objective? How does it, and that's what I agree with him, that it's a question of planning. If a person is in the city, they should feel that they're actually in the city in terms of the services provided, in terms of the road network, in terms of infrastructure generally, in terms of everything.
Health services,
administration,
and
health services, education, etc., etc. But if you are in a city and yet you live and your condition remains as it has been when you are in a municipality, then it's just a question of, a good feeling.
Garbage, the streets are very dirty and everything.
Exactly.
Indeed.
But yet, the cost which it imposes on the taxpayer is too much. And so that's what we're saying. It is a wastage of public resources, because this is the money which should be going into services. That's our insistence. That if you got the money that you're going to create, you're going to spend on all these administrative units that you create without even proper planning, and invest it in education, invest it in healthcare, invest it in infrastructure, then you're going to see the lives of the people improve. You can actually be in a district, you can even be, you can be in a village, but you find that you're living a better life than someone who says he's living in a city when their life has not improved by virtue of being in a city.
Indeed. Let's also interrogate the skyrocketing fuel prices within the country. You do have citizens who are actually crying left, right and center. Patrick Isingoma, let's talk about this issue. Cabinet said, actually government, it said it came out and they said they can't do anything to clamp down on the rising fuel prices. But for the parliamentarians, is there anything that is being mooted, maybe silently or publicly, to ensure that we address this situation?
Thank you very much. This is a very interesting situation. As Parliament, I think there may not be much we can do in terms of controlling the skyrocketing prices. First of all, we need to understand and appreciate the factors which have led to the
break them down for the
which have led to this skyrocketing fuel prices. Some of them are within our control as a country, but some of them are not, because to begin with, we have got the rising fuel prices internationally, with the barrel of fuel going up unprecedentedly. This is one of the key factors leading to these high prices of fuel here. This kind of effect has trickled down to us here. But then there is also another second factor, which is domestic, which we can control, which we can think of addressing. The moderator, we have to understand that in our country here, we are having the taxes on fuel is the biggest in the whole region. If you look at the component of tax on the fuel and you compare with our neighboring states like Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, you'll find in Uganda we are paying the highest tax on fuel than some of these countries, and this also contributes to the high prices we pay. I give an example of petrol, which we call PMS. The pump price now is 4,500. But the cumulative tax on this 1 liter of petrol, which include the URA taxes, then the cost which is added on as a result of checking the fuel at the border, this adds up to about 1,500.
And you're saying there's nothing Parliament can do, there's nothing government can do in that regard? We just have to cry silently. This
is an area where we will do something.
But what kind of advice would you give government?
We did do it because when we passed the income tax 2020,
yes, Patrick,
where this tax component was also passed, we tied our hands. Unless we go back to Parliament now and make an amendment to the income tax and reduce the tax, then that's how we can solve the problem. But as of now, as Parliament, we passed this tax because it is contained in the income tax bill, which was passed into law in May, June, July 2020. And that's the law which is guiding us at the moment.
The issue of rising fuel prices, Rubongo, is government going about it the right way? If they are not, how best should they go around this issue?
But of course, one of the challenges that my colleague just talked about is the question of the taxes. A government that is serious should be able to study the global dynamics around this issue, for example. And again, we should plan ahead of time. People have been talking about having reserves in Uganda, such that at least every time there is a challenge, we have enough supplies in reserve for us to be able at least to move with that for some time. But here, where we have to import, and then while we're importing, the taxes, when the prices go up globally, we are hit very hard. But secondly, of course, as you rightly pointed out, the taxes. It is at this point that a government which cares for the people should be able to come in with interventions, such as reducing prices, such that it is affordable for the people of Uganda. Yeah.
The Kayunga by-election is the salacious conversation we'd like to now get into. Kayunga by-election did see Nakwede Harriet being roughed up by members of the security force. It was a very heinous scene to look at. A woman being roughed up. We actually here on the morning show yesterday said with Sarah Birete that it's going to force so many of the women to stay away from the polls, just like the 2021 election that saw so many of the women being part of the 8 million people who did not go to the polls because of the violence that took center stage within that election. Large and fair. Robongoye, what do you make of what is happening in Kayunga? Bring us up to speed with the latest machinations.
Yeah, so For us as a national unity platform, we are ready. Our candidate is ready. The only unfortunate thing is how the regime has really behaved in this matter. You saw, for example, our president was blocked. He was put under house arrest and blocked from going to campaign for our candidate.
Had you sought permission?
Of course, we do not need to seek permission for him to go. First of all, we had a harmonized campaign program.
Indeed.
And our candidate was meant to be campaigning in Kayunga Town Council on the last day of polls, or I mean on the last day of campaigns.
Indeed.
And a candidate has a right to invite anybody to campaign with them on that last day. So Honorable Chagulanyi did not need any kind of permission to be able to go to Kayunga for campaigns. In fact, you know, just a day before, the Electoral Commission wrote to a candidate to say that, you know what, you should change your program now because General Museveni is going to be in the area also campaigning for his candidate, which is wrong because our candidate had already campaigned in all other sub-counties and was expected to campaign in that particular area. Now, the second thing, of course, you saw what happened yesterday. Good enough, the videos, some media houses have covered them, of massive bribery, spearheaded by the person who calls herself a prime minister of this country. What a shame. I mean, what should the
You mean it is true that people are being given at least 4,000 Uganda shillings to go and vote for the NRM candidate, Mr. Muwonge?
4,000 shillings.
And you're saying it was the Prime Minister Nabanja behind
I mean, they were on video talking about it, and she has been in the area, of course, doing all these kinds of things, distributing lots of money to the people. And you saw the people of Kayunga saying they were given 4,000 shillings to go and vote for the NRM candidate. This morning, this very morning, at 6:30, our agents reached some polling stations and found ballots already stuffed in the boxes. Voting is today.
Voting is today.
Voting is taking place, but like I said, and we have a lot of this evidence, pictures have been taken and all that, and that explains why during the general election, internet is switched off, because they don't want people to see these kinds of things.
So you're saying what we are seeing in Kayunga is actually reminiscent of what actually took place in 2021 January as we executed that election? Definitely.
What happened in January, I mean, like we always say, it was not an election because there was staffing, there was all manner of rigging, really, across the country. But right now, it's because we are dealing with just one district. The cameras are focused there, there's internet and all that, and that kind of thing. So that's why we're able to see this evidence coming through very quickly. Today, our people went to Namavundu. At 6:30, a polling station called Namavundu, church polling station, and they found ballots, almost half of the ballot box filled with ballot papers, pre-ticked ballot papers. And that we've been receiving calls, even as I came in here. Even right now, people have been calling me to report some of these things that are happening in different areas. At night, the military and the police carried out sweeping operations and arrested so many of our supervisors, so many of our polling agents, etc. Many of them are at Nagarama, including members of parliament who had gone there to supervise different electoral areas. There's no law in this country which says that if there's a by-election or an election for that matter, other people cannot come in, especially as long as they're doing lawful activities. And you remember when we had the by-election in Hoima, that's actually what happened. They arrested our people, our polling agents, our supervisors, and kept them away. Of course, they do that to be able to rig without anyone watching.
As we head over to 2026, Rumongo, do you think this is going to be the order of the day? Arrests, intimidation coming in from the military. As we head into this election, do you expect the same to take center stage in that election in 2026?
You know what is very funny and what confuses everybody, even those people watching us, is if General Museveni does not believe in elections, why does he organize them? Because if you want, let there be an election. You go and campaign for your candidate, let's campaign for our candidate and let the people decide. If you don't believe in elections, then you rule by decree.
The big idea there is that if you allow NUP actually supporters to congregate around their supporter, it would show the whole world how popular that person is. And when you go the next day to rig, it would be impossible because the world had already seen how much support Nakwede already had. Do you think that is the move when they disperse NUP supporters? Do you also subscribe to that ideology? That they disperse the supporters so that the world does not see how much support you have as NUP. That's why you eat tear gas every day.
Of course, that's part of it. But secondly, you know, regimes of this nature do this a lot. Because first of all, they fear the people gathering, you know, and we were there, they saw the massive support which our candidate, Honorable Nakwede, is gathering everywhere. So they don't want people to converge because, again, they know that they don't have the support They know we have the support. So they're just trying to make sure that people do not gather. The last time their excuse was COVID. But you've seen, Nabaj are going around, they've been distributing T-shirts to people to come for, and then, you know, so now they have no excuse. If you ask them, why did you prevent Honorable Chagulanyi from going? They cannot talk about COVID because they have been holding rallies, they've been holding processions, so it defeats logic.
Did you notice any ferrying of supporters from a jurisdiction that is not Kayunga?
But of course, you remember even people were on TV saying they were brought in as far as Mbarara to come into Kayunga, and now they were they didn't have transport to take them back. You remember they were complaining that we came for the rally here, now we don't have transport to take us back to Mbarara. You can imagine, as far as ferrying people from Mbarara and bring them to these areas.
I see.
Yeah.
Patrick Isingoma, this removes any credibility or credence of credibility on this election. You do have supporters being ferried in to a jurisdiction they don't hail from. You do have vote stuffing, 6:30 a.m. today morning. You did have the ballot boxes full. You do have a prime minister lashing out money to the supporters so that they could vote for NRM. What do you make of all this as an independent?
You see, what has been going on in Kayunga has really been disturbing, not only to our colleagues in the NAP, but to all of us. Very, very unfortunate situations going on there. You see, moderator, you can't have your cake. You can't eat your cake and you have it.
Indeed.
The moment you decide that you are in a democracy and you are going to, you know, to operate in a democratic dispensation, then you have got to abide by the rules, the dictates of democracy. But, you know, talking of democracy and doing the opposite, keeping on changing, shifting the yardsticks is very, very unfortunate. We have talked about this for a very long time. We have talked about it even in the parliament, in very many forums. I think some of us have, you know, have reached the end because we talk the same thing, the same things all over and all over again. And we expect the key players in this country to understand this situation, but they don't understand. They don't understand. You go into an election with the predetermined, goals. But then where do you put the people? Those who are supposed to, to decide who should lead them. I think we should have left the people of Kayunga to make their own decision and choose their own leaders, as they did last time.
The fact that they favored President Museveni over Robert Chagulanyi, doesn't that give you sleepless nights in a country where we do have multi-party politics? And what does that say about the development of multi-party politics in this country? It's been 15 years of multi-party politics in Singoma. Do you think we are making strides, having an incumbent being favored by members of security and his supporters, and you do have an opposition candidate who is not even allowed to campaign for his candidate? Is that multi-party politics?
Well, it is not. I mean, we are in something which is ideal. It is ideal. It's not real.
Indeed.
Yeah, we profess of multipartyism, but what we are practicing is not actually, it does not live that expectations. But we have to keep on. We can't give up. We can't, because democracy is very, very costly. You have to pay a very high price, and you have got to persevere. So we have to persevere until ultimately we achieve our intended objectives.
Perseverance means we need to continue suffering in silence. Rubongoya, what do you make of all this? Multi-party politics, is it actually developed in this country, or is it a one-party state that we are dealing with, but under the guise of multi-party politics? Definitely,
and every Ugandan watching us can see that on paper, it talks about multi-party democracy, but in practice, and I entirely agree with him, in practice, what we're saying is different.
Indeed.
Because multi-party dispensation demands that all political parties have a fair space to operate, that, we go out there to the people, and the people decide. Without the military coming in or the Electoral Commission taking sides in an election. You saw what happened with the Electoral Commission in the last election. People, up to now, if you ask Justice Byabakama where he was getting the things he was reading to the people as a presidential results, he cannot tell you.
Because internet was largely not on, but he was saying he did, because they said they had anticipated a blackout. They had created their own source of internet.
Their own source of internet. but you can imagine where, which, how. But anyway, so for us, how we perceive this, and I agree with him, democracy is costly, it is a constant struggle. And we, the people of Uganda, must continue struggling until we ensure that we have democracy. You can imagine, if they can do this just in a by-election, not even a member of parliament, but of an LC5 chairperson in the district, you can imagine what they did at the national level.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, of course, President Museveni one too many times has come out to say violence isn't something that military officers should be using in that regard. But then even yesterday, we did see that taking center stage. Now going to Harriet being roughed up, and many of the Noob supporters. What do you make of the back and forth, the lip service that we are seeing? At first it is corruption, lip service, we're going to fight corruption, nothing is implemented, nothing is done. Now it is violence. Well, we don't want our police officers to be battering anyone. We don't want military officers to be battering anyone. And they continue lip service. What do you make of this?
Of course, you know, General Museveni is a master of hypocrisy. What he says and what he does in action are completely different. You think he's part of the problem? Of course, he's the problem. Actually, he's not part of the problem. He's the problem. I see. You remember the other day he was talking about corruption and then saying that, you know, the IGG should go slow on lifestyle audit because, you know, these people are going to invest money abroad. I mean, which head of state makes such a statement?
More like he knew who they were and where they were investing the money.
And where they're investing the money.
If we lifestyle audit them, they're going to take flight.
They're going to run away and take the money elsewhere.
The money had better stay near here.
It had better stay near here. And you can imagine.
Indeed.
But if you also look at the other issue, for example, you have an anti-corruption day, you celebrate it. Just a few days later, your prime minister is busy bribing voters with impunity on TV. Now, they talk about violence, and he condemns violence and all that. But just go and you saw what happened to the doctors yesterday who were attempting to carry out a peaceful demonstration within the law. And you saw what happened in Kayunga, like you were saying, Honorable Nakwede, Honorable Zake, and others, our coordinators, mobilizers, beaten up simply to make sure that General Museveni does not find crowds in Kayunga, because our people were in the city, waiting, we're in the town, in Kayunga town, waiting for our president to go there, or even for their candidate. So they had to force these people off the streets. Many of them had to lock themselves up in the houses during the day for him to pass on empty streets. And of course, if these actions of violence are done to favor him, then he's behind them. And as you know, these people are never punished, you know, for these kinds of crimes that they commit.
Patrick Isingoma, we didn't even see this kind of heavy deployment when we were hit at CPS and Parliamentary Avenue. The number of police officers, the number of military police officers that we are seeing did not amount to what we saw when we did encounter those twin explosions. Why is Kayunga a focal point for the NRM, in your opinion?
Well, I wouldn't know why, but I think it's not new. It's not new because we have been seeing this. And this kind of experience always happens whenever you have by-elections taking place, especially middle after the general election. And the good thing with the general election normally is that all the players spread out their, you know, their forces. The forces are spread out throughout the country. To
intimidate?
To do all those things, all those possible actions, including intimidation. But when it is an election like this, then and it is one area, in this case Kayunga, then you have a problem because you have got the concentration of all the coercive elements into that area. So that one wasn't the problem. You know, it doesn't come as surprising anyway, as far as I'm concerned.
The intervention of the military in every elective process, what do you make of it, Ruwongoya? We've seen military actually take over elections. It's not the first time. It seems like more of a tradition.
It is wrong and it's not acceptable by the law. If you look at the guidelines of the law, the Electoral Commission Act and all the laws which guide the elections, we are not supposed to have military intervening in the elections.
All right, I'm going to get you on the issue of military interference, Mr. Ruwongoya, but first off, I do have my man, Juma Kiria. He's in Kayunga right now. Okay. I want him to give us an update on your allegations of ballot staffing and everything that you just mentioned. Juma Kiria, good morning. You are live on Morning at NTV. We do have so many allegations, ballot staffing, vote rigging. What have you seen on the ground?
Good morning, Romeo, and good morning, the viewers. We are coming to you live from Kayunga district, where elections of the LC5 chairperson are taking place. There are 6 contenders in this race, and this morning seems to be very busy for the voters in this area. Voting has started in all the places that we've been to. Here in Kayunga Town Council, the returning officer had said that voting would start at exactly 7, but at about 20 minutes past 7, the polling materials hadn't arrived to some of the polling stations here in Kayunga Town Council. There have been a lot of talks. We've been informed, but we are yet to confirm from police that members of the National Unity Platform Party were arrested last evening. That is the Member of Parliament for Lubaga South, that is Arosius Matovu. Then we understand David Kayunga was also arrested. Then the Member of Parliament for Bale County, that is Tevandeke Charles, was also arrested, and some other members. We understand even a journalist of the Daily Monitor, that is Michael Kakumirizi. They are all being held in Nagarama police station. But we are yet to confirm from police if these arrests really took place. But what I know, I spoke to Michael last evening when they had just been arrested. Indeed, he told me he had been arrested from Chitimbwa sub-county. But the information I get that he was transferred to Nagarama police station last evening. Meanwhile, here this is A to M polling station, that is at Hospital Grounds polling station. Voting has started, and people seem to be, most of the people that had lined up here have already voted, and some have left, some are hanging around to see what happens. We've received some reports that are not yet confirmed that in Kangulumira, that is the sub-county, the other side near Buyukwe, that in the morning, by the time people started voting, 2 boxes were full, and the voting has been stopped and to resume at another time. But we are yet to confirm. That is the situation here in Kayunga. But to give you a bit of details about Kayunga, it has 3 constituencies. It has 13 sub-counties. It has 71 parishes. It has 407 villages and 338 polling stations. All these polling stations, because the LC5 chairperson is elected in the entire district, all these polling stations, the 338, the voting is taking place. Kayunga also has hard-to-reach areas because it has places that are surrounded by water, so they had to take the polling material. We understand the delivering of the polling materials started at about 2 a.m. in the morning, and though they started at that time, the town council was the last place to get the polling materials, despite the fact that the offices of the Electoral Commission are within the town council. That is the situation here in Kayunga. Back to you, Romeo.
Joma Keria, many thanks for having updated us with what is happening within Kayunga. We shall revert to you when something else actually culminates out of Kayunga. But he has told us, yes, he can't confirm the reports of ballot staffing, but then there are unconfirmed reports indicating that, yes, before polling even began at 6:30 a.m., 2 boxes had already been full. Voting was stopped in that area, and it will be resumed or resuscitated at a later stage. Let's talk about the issue of military intervention taking center stage every election cycle, every election process. We are seeing heavy deployment in that regard. Rubongwe, we have so many experts who say this is a plan to rig elections. They will come through, intimidate any would-be picketers or supporters of a particular candidate who might come out, to contest that outcome of the election. So the members of the military go there to show these people we are here. If you don't accept the outcome, we shall come for you. Is this the case?
Yeah, I mean, I was there yesterday, and I could see the sense of intimidation, the sense of fear within the people. I mean, people just fear everybody because, first of all, there are even people in plain clothes who are deployed in these areas. So people even yesterday were afraid to come out and associate with NUP because if you associate with NUP, they just pick you up, take you to Nagarama or other police stations. So the question of militarization, and I say it is illegal, but it's because we live in a country which does not believe in the law.
Does that mean that some of the NUP supporters for Harriet Nakwede did not vote simply because they were afraid if I come out, I might drink or eat tear gas? Or
Of course. You know, that's what normally happens when you saw what happened in January. I mean, everywhere you would, through your eyes, you would see military, everywhere. And so there are many people who stay away because they know if they go to the polling station, they could end up in trouble. And you know, in this country, once you're arrested, you can easily end up in prison for a year. Right now, as we speak, we have people who have spent over a year in detention simply because they were arrested in November. People just picked up, random people picked up. Some are, we don't even know where they are. They're in safe houses. Some, of course, are Chitalia. Others are in other, prisons, etc., etc. So someone says that instead of me going there and I end up being arrested and then there's no due process of the law, I would rather do what? Stay away even from voting. So that's one of the reasons why the voter turnout is always low. That's why many millions of people do not turn up to vote in the presidential elections. That's why because of militarization. Yeah.
What about, where does this leave the women? In the just concluded election, over 8 million people did not go to the polls, majority of whom were women. Now we are seeing Harriet Nakwede being roughed up and so forth. Do you have a feeling that even in 2026, as we head over to that election, that more women are going to desist to engage in the politics of their country because of how violent it is?
Yeah, of course you keep referring to 2026, but I want to say that the regime which rules over this country needs to be very careful.
Indeed.
Because if you make elections a joke, like it is, then some people may actually, at some point, say, to hell with elections. And our country will be in a very, very bad place. We believe in democracy, we believe in the rule of law, but I think the provocation, making every election look like, like a war theater, like a military operation, needs to stop. Because we all know what the alternative is. And none of us wants our country to go there. Because if every election is handled in this manner, shamelessly, without any shame, and the military goes around beating women, of course, we are wondering how these people don't even have the courtesy to respect a woman, but they just pounce on her, beat her up, and she's not the first one. There have been very, very many women activists who have been treated in a similar manner. Their objective is staying in power and winning a victory. They don't just care about the dignity of
and of course, some of those women who were wrapped up were working for some NGOs, part of which were actually shut down in August of 2021. 54 NGOs were shut down. Morning at NTV has noticed a shrinking civic space. We are also noticing a shrinking opposition space. Rubongoya, is there space for the opposition to exercise their constitutional mandate moving forward, according to the factors we are actually espousing right now? Of
course, the civic or even the political space has been shrinking over time. And what we see is that, like we've been saying, especially like our President Honorable Chagulanyi has been saying, every person is going to be a victim. If all the people of Uganda do not come up to actually join hands and fight for a better country. Why am I saying this? You saw what happened to the doctors yesterday. Maybe for a very long time, the professionals have been feeling that they are safe. But right now, they're trying to protest for better welfare, and they're treated in this manner. All
right, that is Rubongoya for you, the NUP Secretary General. Isingoma Patrick Mwesigo, what do you make of this? How do you create a conducive environment through which the opposition, the government altogether thrive without any of these contestations taking center stage or violence?
Yeah, we need to continue standing out for our rights as a country, as political players, as stakeholders. We need to know that we have a stake, all of us, we have a stake in this country.
Indeed.
And if we make the country a good country to live in, it is not only us, but our children, our grandchildren, everybody will be very happy. We should not postpone this to other people today. Let me not care, others who will come will handle. No, we shall be like the Germans, how they were at one time. When Hitler was busy hitting them, he began with the Jews, and when they were asked, what they should do, they were saying, no, that's not our problem. That's the problem of the Jews. Soon he went to the communists. He was busy killing and jailing and torturing the communists. And the other people are saying, no, that is the problem of the communists.
So meaning if the opposition are crying now, tomorrow or later, those who are silent will also be reft.
The trade unionists.
So let's also talk about the other individuals, like the medical workers who are striking right now, the Inters. What is Parliament doing to alleviate their situation?
We have a motion, which I think is supposed to come from Parliament either today, to discuss the issue of the medical interns. The issue of the medical interns is supposed to have been solved by the passing of a supplementary of 35 billion. Some of this money was supposed to handle the aspect of the medical interns, and the matter should be in finance. We don't know why up to now the finance minister has not released that money to pay these medical interns. So as far as Parliament is concerned, this is supposed to be a done deal. It's supposed to be over. We shouldn't be having this kind of problem at the moment.
So the ban was approved already. All right, thank you very much. What do you make of this, Rubongo, the issue of the medical interns? 1 minute, then we go to Stephen Mbide.
But of course, the question of the medical interns, the question of healthcare generally in the country needs to be looked at. Like we've been saying, we see a lot of waste of public resources and other things, which money can actually help medical interns, medical professionals generally, and also to make sure that they have equipment, proper equipment in hospitals, and these other things. So for us, it's a question of governance. The question of this, the problem of our country is governance, allocation of resources, making sure that the priorities are actually picked right. Just the money that they are dishing out in all these useless things can definitely be able to help our medical workers. NOP
Secretary General Rubongoya David Lewis, thank you very much for having made the time to speak to us. Patrick Isingoma, thank you very much too. Kind regards to the people in Hoima East Division. Indeed.
Thank you too.
And you're still watching Morning at 10 TV. Stephen Mbide is joining us right now, live, for another conversation. A very good morning, Stephen.